why you don't know? Because you had your head underneath a hoodie at that time, trying to stop from pitching a fit, and I get it, but like, you stress yourself out to the point where you don't pay attention and you miss really important details. Your memory is actually really good. When you pay attention, you remember stuff. Alright, I'll quit trying to compliment you and recognizing what you do well. Alright, so slopes are opposites and reciprocals. That's a detail, like right away. Is that pretty good information that you understand something about this problem? Yes. What is something else that we could add here really quickly?
The formula.
Oh yeah, could I write out the formula for slope? Remember, y equals mx plus b is the slope-intercept form of a line. I don't...
x2 minus x1 divided by...
See, this is the reason why I don't like that formula. That's the one I don't use. What did you say, Kyla? That's the easiest one. But what do you need in order to figure out rise and run? You need to create a graph, right? So you can create a graph for those 2 points and find the rise and run, couldn't you? 100%, right? Like you can do that. But remember, and so Jamie, remember, if it's rising, which variable is that? Which variable is rising? That's y, which is why I like to do the change in y divided by the change in x. Right? That would be, Jamie, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. But it's much easier to do rise divided by run or change in y divided by change in x. That's what I would have done for slope. But I will say this, if you got this far, guys, you're almost there. The only thing you got to do now is calculate the slope. What could I do to calculate the slope between those 2 points? I could graph it, right? And if I graph it, then I can find my rise and run. What's something else I could do? Remember, there are 5 major mathematical representations, 3 that we're going to focus on. The 3 that we focus on are graphs, tables, and equations, right? A table is great, and I need y'all to pay attention to this. This -9, is that x or y? X, it's alphabetical order, -4 is? So it's -9 and -4. I saw people put -9 and -4. It's x and it's y. So what's the next x value?
3 and 4.
And then 4. And remember, right here is the change in y. To go from -4 to +4, what happened? Oh, added 8. There's the change in y, because that's literally my y's.
Well, how'd you get the second group of numbers?
It's right there, dude.
Ah.
You have 2 points. 2 points.
And change from -9 to 3 is...
Right? So my slope, change in y is 8, change in x is 12, which if you graph this, you would get this as well. And you could simplify it, or you could just leave it there. I don't really care. If you simplify, you get 2/3. I use my slope formula. And now I know that I need the opposite and the reciprocal. What's the opposite and reciprocal of 2/3?
-2.
By writing out what you know, it's going to help you focus your attention so that you can get it right. Like, I'm not asking you to show your evidence to be mean or to make you do more work. I'm asking you to show your evidence because it's going to help you grow and learn. What's your question, Emily?
Oh, sorry. I just read the answer wrong. I couldn't find -3 over 2. So.
Gotcha. -3 what?
Divided by 2.
Divided by 2. Remember, -3 halves or -3 divided by 2. What are your questions about number 2 before I continue? Okay, again, I just want to point out, show me what you know. Because if you show me, hey, I know that perpendicular slopes are opposites and reciprocals, that's going to help you a lot, right? If you know, hey, I'm looking at slope, and you write out the slope formula, whichever one you go, rise divided by run, hey, that's on a graph. Change in y divided by change in x, that could be on a graph or it could be on a table. Like, that's it. Don't make it more complicated than that. All right, number 3, which I don't know why I cut off the number up there, but oh well. So we're trying to find the equation of a line that passes through negative 3, 2 and is parallel to the graph equation. Is that right? I think so. I think that's what it says up there. So what do you need to know? What is evidence that you could show me of your understanding of what's happening here? Okay, so each of these equations are y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form, right? So what else do we need?
We need to find the,
We need to find the y-intercept, and what else? And the slope, right? What do we know about the slope?
Parallel, also.
I was like, look at the information given, it's parallel, right? What does that mean?
I mean,
It is a translation down, but what does it tell me about the slope? It tells me the slopes are the same, right? Yes? The slopes are equal. Now, I need y'all to pay attention to this because I see a lot of students do this. Ethan and I need y'all to pay attention to this because I see a lot of students do this. I see students go, boop, boop. Okay? And that can be fine, except a lot of you are making mistakes when you do slope like this. Remember, slope is what divided by what? Rise divided by run. So is this going up or down? Up. So is that adding or subtracting 1? Is this going left or right? So show the arrow for that, because if it's going to the left, is that adding 1 or subtracting 1? Way too many of you are assuming that it's 1 divided by 1, and it's not. That slope is 1 divided by negative 1, which is negative 1. Are there any answers that I can eliminate because of that? Yo, what have I calculated so far? The slope.
So the
so
positive
it would just be A.
A.
So I can eliminate A. The slope is negative 1, that's all I know. Right? What else can I do?
C and D.
Not necessarily yet. Here's the thing I will point out. Some of us try to use point slope here, and that's fine. It's harder than it has to be. Guys, could you graph negative 3, 2? What?
Wait, maybe.
I mean, you can graph negative 3, 2. It's right there.
you can put the points there.
There's my point. And what else do I know about this line? It has a slope of
Negative 1.
negative 1. It's parallel, right? So literally, I can just take this line and translate it down, and here's my slope. Does anybody see the y-intercept now?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
yes.
What is that y-intercept?
Oh,
Negative 1.
A lot of math teachers really stress about the point slope formula when there's no need to stress about point slope. I know it's in the book, but can't I just graph it and find the y-intercept? That's way easier. There's way less work involved in that. But again, write out the slope-intercept form of a line. First off, is that evidence that you understand the equation of a line? Yes. Will that help you focus your attention? Because what things do you need? You need the
right, we're gonna
right, but that means I need the slope. So I need to go up here and find information about the slope. Hey, they're parallel, so slopes are the same, right? And so like you can make notes like this. Slopes are the same. And then my y-intercept, right? So I just graph with a slope of negative 1, right? I went every time to get the next point. What did I do? I went down 1 to the right 1. That's all I did. Went down to the right, down to the right. That's a slope of negative 1. Questions before I go to number 4? Okay. Number 4. I'll go ahead and tell you I'm probably going to take this question off on whether it's graded or not because I think that it went into some details that we didn't really talk about. But first things first, I will point out, if I have AB, actually if I go up here to this segment bisector, right? Technically, a segment bisector is a line, right? Will a line have the same length as a segment like this?
Yes.
A line continues forever. Does that continue forever?
No, because that's a point.
So could, oh, I know it, because it's on a PDF, that's what's happening. Right here, so could it be the same length as AB?
No.
No, right? But what is true about a segment bisector? When you look right here, look at that segment bisector.
It's perfect.
A segment bisector is always perpendicular, right? Segment bisectors, they're also called perpendicular bisectors. And Joey, again, if you break that language down, perpendicular means it intersects at what angle?
90 degrees.
And if it bisects, it cuts it into two pieces. That's it. Two equal pieces. Break it down by the words. Bi means two, sec means to cut. So it cuts into two.
So the perpendicular bisector intersects at 45 degrees.
It intersects at a 90-degree angle, and it cuts the line segment into two equal pieces.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Oh, what's the next answer? Is that true? A segment bisector? Yeah, it divides into two congruent line segments. D is the part that is true, but most people would not know. And it's a tough way to explain it, but what it's saying is here, that's a point on the perpendicular bisector. Is that distance going to be the same distance as to B? Yes. So technically all three of those would work. That's the reason though, because I don't think we covered that detail. I'm not going to assess you on that. Okay, I need you all to pay attention to this. A whole lot of us thought that A had a midpoint. But I want you to remember, listen very clearly on this. Does a line ever stop?
No.
So can you actually have the middle of it?
No.
No.
You can tell this is I got it in.
Right. Lines can't have midpoints.
So that's what we definitively said the middle and the end have in common because they're both non-existent.
Hey guys, I don't know why anyone thinks that it's okay to pack. Oh, that's another thing. If I am absent ever again and there are not cell phones in this cell phone caddy, you're getting written up. Because I know who has a cell phone and who doesn't. And I saw a picture one day where two people had their phones up. And I appreciate you, Nathan, because I know you were one of them. You better put your phones up from here on out. Is that very clear? So I'm going to have the sub take pictures of that cell phone pocket. And if your phone's not up there, we're going to have problems. Okay. C. Well, and so one thing I'll point out, this is referring to angles. It's not segments, so B is out. C. Is M the midpoint?
Yes.
Well, what is this line right here? Do you know?
No, because that's a
But we're referring to AB right here. But what type of line is this? Someone said bisector. What type of bisector?
Perpendicular.
Perpendicular bisector. You see how it has those arcs there? So does a perpendicular bisector go through the midpoint? Yes.
And I got a question about the vaccine.
Yeah.
See how it has the arrow on the top of it and keep going? Like,
Yep.
oh,
Well, hold on a second. Because look, yes, it keeps going. But do we see right here endpoints for A to B? Right? So is M bisecting, or is that the midpoint of AB? It's 7 and 7, right? So is that the middle? Yeah. So D works as well. So even though this is I'll point this out, is what type of geometric concept is D? array, right? It has a starting point and it continues. But if I look at just from A to B, that's the midpoint because it's 7 and 7. It cuts it in half. All right, we are about to wrap up. I think for the most part, people are okay on number 6, but there was no justification. Number 6, it was a rotation because A rotated over here to B. You could have literally shown arrows with the rotation. B was a translation because it what? It shifted to the right. And C, it was a reflection over a line, right? It reflected over that line. Right? Justify why? You had justification, most people did not.
The reason why I put this triangle here is because like, if I was shading, then it would be a line.
I gotcha. 7 and 8 we will have to cover on Monday. Hold on, don't finish packing. One thing I want to show you is this. Because if you were struggling with a compass and creating a perpendicular bisector, you go to Carnegie Learning Videos. Right here, it talks about segment bisectors. And look, it is a 3-minute video where this guy goes through how to do a segment bisector. Take a compass home and even take a ruler if you need to and practice creating a segment bisector. We spend too much time on it, it will be on your test. Is that clear? Alright. So here's a reminder of assignments. I will say. Have a good rest of your day. Sorry, Addison. See ya.
Mấy quay sao cho tôi bọc được?
See you, sir.
And have a good weekend.
You too.
Halloween.